Jade Empire is a 2005 Bioware RPG. It was a fantastic game in its time, and it is still very playable today. Indeed, in my opinion, it's better than most modern games. Throughout the story of Jade Empire, the player is offered choices. They can walk the path of the open palm, making virtuous decisions and protecting the weak and the innocent. Or they could walk the more ruthless path of the closed fist, and make decisions based on what will make them stronger, or otherwise bring them the most benefit. Jade Empire had 3 endings. One for the open palm, one for the closed fist, and a third, more secretive ending that would have become the canon ending, and led into the planned sequel. There isn't really a good ending to Jade Empire, however. Only 3 different shades of bad. So prepare to pick your path to destruction as we explore the story of Jade Empire. The game itself opens on the player character sparring with another student of the Two Rivers School. But to really understand the story that is to come, we need to take a step back in time. 20 years before the events of the game, the Jade Empire stands on the brink of destruction in the form of the Long Drought. For 10 years the land had endured scorching heat and little rainfall. Sages consulted by the Emperor Sun Hai predicted at least another 3 years of this drought, while the Ministry of Harmony reported a mounting death toll in the hundreds of thousands. Emperor Sun Hai, seeing his empire and dynasty dying around him, seeks out the being known as the Water Dragon. The Emperor intends to use the Water Dragon's power to alleviate the drought. The Water Dragon is protected by the Spirit Monks, a monastic order that serve the Water Dragon at the temple at Dirge. The Spirit Monks resisted the desecration of the Water Dragon by the Emperor, and a fierce battle ensued at Dirge that would lead to the death of all but one Spirit Monk. The Spirit Monk who lived was an infant child, spirited away at the end of the battle. With the death of the Spirit Monks, the Emperor was free to seize the power of the Water Dragon, but he was immediately betrayed by his brothers, Prince Sun Qin and Prince Sun Li, the glorious strategist. This betrayal came moments too late, just after the Emperor had claimed the heart of the Water Dragon, and despite the sword being plunged into his back, the power of the Water Dragon kept the Emperor alive, and allowed him to kill and then bind the soul of Prince Sun Qin, creating in him the tormented and deadly servant, Death's Hand. Prince Sun Li escaped his brother's wrath, and while fleeing Dirge, came across the Spirit Monk child carried by their guardian. Sun Li executed the guardian and took the child for himself, disappearing into the night, while Emperor Sun Hai succeeded in ending the long drought by cutting open the body of the Water Dragon. Cutting open the body of the Water Dragon had an unintended consequence, as the Water Dragon also served as the shepherd of the dead, ushering those who died through to the underworld and the Wheel of Rebirth. Without the Water Dragon, those who die do not feel the pull to the underworld, and continue to roam the world of the living, in time losing their memories of who they were, and losing their minds in the process. As the years pass, the infant who was taken from Dirge is trained by the glorious strategist, who has assumed the guise of Master Li, and pretends to be nothing more than a martial arts teacher at the Two Rivers School. And so the game begins. We assume the role of the Spirit Monk infant turned student, and while it is up to the player to choose their character, I have chosen Furious Ming for this playthrough, and for the sake of convenience, we'll refer to the student as Ming for the duration of this video. Ming is sparring with his fellow student, Jin Wu, who tells him that Master Li wishes to speak with him. Ming goes to speak to his master, but they are interrupted by another student, who tells Master Li that the town is under attack. Master Li sends Ming to meet up with another student, Dawnstar, and then go with her to the town weapons master to obtain a weapon to ward off the bandits. Ming meets Dawnstar at her home, where she is being harassed by another student, Gao the Lesser. Ming sends Gao on his way, and he and Dawnstar head into the town, immediately running into some of the bandits who are no match for the 2 students. Ming collects his weapon of choice, and then he and Dawnstar head to the beach to confront the bandits head-on. Ming and Dawnstar dispatch the bandits on the beach before the Lotus Assassin sorcerer commanding them raises 3 spirits to join the fight. Once these spirits are dispersed, the sorcerer teleports to the beach, at which point Master Li intervenes, easily killing the assassin. The assassin had been sent by that servant of the Emperor's, Death's Hand, to find Prince Sun Li, and had recognized Master Li as one and the same. After speaking with Dawnstar about the dead being unable to rest, Ming returns to the Two Rivers School to speak with Master Li, but they are again interrupted, this time by Gao the Lesser, who challenges Ming. Ming defeats Gao fairly, but, enraged, Gao seeks to use sorcery against Ming, causing Master Li to intervene and tell Gao that he no longer has a place at the school. Ming then goes to speak with Master Li again in his house, and Master Li reveals his identity as the Emperor's brother and tells Ming of the fate of his people, the Spirit Monks. He also reveals that the school lies above the Spirit Cave, where an amulet of Ming's people is kept. Ming is sent into the cave to recover this amulet, and learns that by bearing the amulet, the souls of the restless dead will now be drawn to him. Ming is forced to disperse a number of these ghosts in the cave before meditating on the amulet, and meeting the spirit of the water dragon, who tells him that as the last spirit monk, it is up to him to restore her and set things right. The water dragon teleports Ming back to Master Li's home, where he is questioned about what occurred in the cave. But they are interrupted once more, this time with news that Gao the Lesser has abducted Dawnstar. Ming sets out after them, finding along the way that Gao has killed the student guarding the gate out of the school. Gao has taken Dawnstar into the swamp outside of the town of Two Rivers, and so Ming follows them. He runs into a man, Sagacious Zhu, fighting off Gao the Lesser's men. Sagacious Zhu initially refuses to assist Ming, but upon learning that it was Dawnstar that was taken, he chooses to accompany Ming. They follow Gao's trail to a cave where he and Dawnstar are arguing, with Gao saying that Dawnstar should have been grateful to him for getting her out of town. Gao is less than pleased to see Ming, and they fight to the death. Leaving the cave with Dawnstar, the trio sees flyers overhead, heading in the direction of Two Rivers. Gao had a flyer of his own, and the three, being deeply concerned about the other flyers heading to Two Rivers, take this for themselves. Heading back to Two Rivers, they see below them the destruction being wrought upon the town. They land at the beach, and Ming heads back to the school, seeing as he goes the town's destruction up close. Arriving at the school, it is overrun with Gao the Greater's mercenaries, Gao the Greater being the father of Gao the Lesser. Once Gao the Greater's mercenaries are taken care of, a dying student reveals that Gao's men came later, and it was actually the Lotus Assassins led by Death's Hand and Inquisitor Jia who were responsible for the attack. Sagacious Zhu tells Ming that if he wants to pursue the attackers, they should head to the Imperial City. After all, Death's Hand and the Lotus Assassins work directly for the Emperor. Sagacious Zhu, Dawnstar and Ming set off to the Imperial City, but only make it as far as Tian's Landing, a small port town, before the flyer they took from Gao the Lesser is overcome by the wind and crashes to the ground. Sagacious Zhu then explains that actually they were quite lucky, as they should not have been attempting to fly at all without a wind map. Now find themselves without a flyer or a wind map, Ming makes his way into Tian's Landing, being contacted on the way by the water dragon, who tells him that another piece of his amulet is in Tian's Landing. On the way into Tian's Landing, Ming is confronted by a mysterious woman called Silk Fox, who has mistaken him for one of the attackers of Two Rivers. After a brief fight, Silk Fox realizes that Ming does not fight like an assassin or a mercenary, though notes his fighting style is odd, appearing to have some flaw. She also tells Ming that he should be seeking answers in the Imperial City. Ming continues into town and passes a mother and daughter on the way who are leaving. They tell Ming they are leaving the town because it has become cursed and miserable since the dam on the river has been opened. It turns out Tian's Landing is now facing two great challenges. The dam on the river has been opened, causing the river level to drop, cutting them off from the sea and stranding a boat full of sailors and their captain in the town. The town is also cut off from trade by land, due to the forest being infested by restless spirits and no longer being passable by traders. Ming runs into one more person on the way into town, Hui the Brave, an ex-Imperial soldier and acquaintance of Master Li. She confirms Master Li and Prince Sun Li are one and the same, and says that she was sent by Master Li to Tian's Landing to search for the piece of the amulet, and to await Ming's arrival. She also explains that the amulet piece was carried by a spirit monk from Dirge, who died of his injuries after the battle in Tian's Landing, and the amulet is believed to be with the spirit monk's remains in the ruins of the old Tian's Landing, the original town which was flooded when the dam was constructed. Now, the Lotus Assassins have opened the dam to drain the ruins and search for the amulet. Ming then has three things to accomplish in Tian's Landing. He needs to acquire a flyer, a wind map, and the piece of the amulet. He is free to do these things in any order he chooses. While exploring Tian's Landing, Ming meets Minister Sheng, who has been appointed to oversee the town. Minister Sheng is feeling quite sorry for himself for his posting to the town and the current state of affairs. He gives Ming a key to the gates to the ruins of Old Tian's Landing, and asks Ming to close the dam. Minister Sheng also tells Ming the pirates on the river have flyers. The captain of the landlocked ship offers a reward for Ming closing the dam, whereas the local wine seller offers a reward for Ming breaking the dam controls so the dam will never close, as the wine seller is making quite a profit off the stranded sailors. Ming heads into the ruins of Old Tian's Landing, seeing the Lotus Assassins searching the ruins along with their rat demon servants. One of these servants tells Ming that the assassins plan to look behind a weak wall, and tells Ming they plan to use rockets to destroy this wall. This is a side quest, but a particularly interesting one, as should Ming investigate the area behind the wall, he meets convicts who were drowned in the flooding of Old Tian's Landing. He also meets the guard who held the key that would have released the convicts, saving their life. Unfortunately, this guard had the poor sense to release Strangler Jisoo first. Strangler Jisoo lived up to his name, killing the guard, but in doing so doomed himself and the other convicts to their fate. Not finding the amulet in Old Tien's Landing, Ming proceeds to the dam itself and overhears an Imperial soldier and a Lotus assassin discussing the password to access the dam controls. Heading to the controls, Ming meets a child, Wildflower, who acts as a conduit for the demon Chai Ka, a Heavenly Gate guardian, and, unbeknownst to Ming at the time, is also a conduit for the toad demon Ya Zhen as well. Wildflower was one of the children who died in the flooding of Old Tien's Landing, and she has been restored to life in order to serve as the host for these demons. Chai Ka had been sent by the celestial bureaucracy, the beings in charge of heaven, to protect the piece of the amulet that had been brought to Old Tien's Landing. Unfortunately, the Lotus assassins had arrived before Ming and had attacked Chai Ka and stolen the amulet piece. Chai Ka initially believes Ming is another Lotus assassin and attacks him. He then realizes the mistake and reveals his purpose, but also that the amulet piece had been taken. Chai Ka and Wildflower become additional companions to Ming, with Chai Ka noting his fate is tied to Ming's. Wildflower also gives Ming an inscrutable power source, which Chai Ka believes will be important. Ming then has a choice to make. He can choose what happens with the dam. If Ming closes the dam, then the river will rise, the captain's ship can leave, and the people of Tien's Landing will have access to the sea once more. Of course, Old Tien's Landing will also be flooded. This is the good or open palm choice. The second option is to remove the Jade Heart powering the dam controls, thereby damaging it irrevocably. With this option, the river remains lower, the ship stays landlocked, and Tien's Landing will have to find a way to survive, or not, without the river supporting them. There is the third option as well, that is, to do nothing. Ming is not required to do anything with the dam if he chooses not to. It is not an essential part of his story, and he can leave Tien's Landing with the dam in the same situation as when he arrived, with the controls left for the next adventurer to use or destroy at their whim. If Ming does make a decision about the dam, then upon leaving the controls, he will be confronted by Lotus assassins and Imperial soldiers. Of note is that if the dam controls were destroyed, the Lotus assassin berates Ming, saying that they had never intended for the dam to remain open for good, meaning that Tien's Landing will be in a worse position than they would have been if Ming never arrived, if he did indeed destroy the controls. Either way, the assassins will be most displeased with Ming's interference, and Ming will need to fight off the assassins and soldiers before returning to town. To obtain the wind map, Ming must also speak with Lord Yun in the Great Southern Forest outside of Tien's Landing. Ming will meet Lord Yun first after defeating some spirits who attacked Ming upon him entering the forest. Lord Yun is conveniently in possession of a wind map and is willing to copy it for Ming if he helps save the forest. The forest is sick and full of restless spirits, and Lord Yun suspects this has something to do with the fox spirit, Forest Shadow. Ming makes his way into the forest and has to deal with a number of spirits, until they reach a bridge where he meets a strange man. This man says that he is a survivor from the Pilgrim's Rest Inn, deeper in the forest. He tells Ming that because of the problems with the forest, the inn has been cut off from the town, and the people at the inn are starving. He invites Ming to come to the inn with him before the fox spirit attacks and kills him. The fox spirit then turns on Ming, who is able to resist the spirit's magic. This makes the spirit run off, and Ming is left to continue onwards. He then has to choose what path to take, the one that leads to the fox spirit's temple, or the one that leads to the inn. At the inn there are a group of normal-looking people and a further companion, henpecked Hao. Hao can warn Ming that the people are not as they seem, and it turns out that the people at the inn, other than Hao, are cannibals, who, though once human, have become twisted servants of the Mother, a giant toad demon the fox spirit has trapped in the caverns underneath the inn. The innkeeper can offer Ming a large amount of money to kill the fox spirit, and Ming is free to choose for himself whether to kill the fox spirit or the Mother. Killing the fox spirit is the closed fist option, whereas killing the Mother is the open palm option. However, if Ming wishes, he can also kill both of these beings, so that the forest can fail or flourish without their involvement. To reach the fox spirit, Ming has to travel to her temple, where she meets Lord Yun's man, Spear Catcher's Leaves, and another companion, Black Whirlwind. The Black Whirlwind is rather enjoying cutting down spirits, and initially mistakes Ming for another of the same, attacking him as well. At this point, Ming must be rather sick of people mistaking him for something that he isn't, and attacking him on sight. Once the Black Whirlwind realizes his mistake, Ming talks to Spear Catcher's Leaves about accessing the temple and reaching the fox spirit. Ming needs a temple crystal from the inn to reach the fox spirit in her heaven. Ming places the crystal in the pedestal at the fox's temple and uses the lights of winter and summer to activate a portal to heaven. Ming enters heaven and is confronted by the magical abacus. The magical abacus was meant to track Ming's exploits and keep a record of them, but has failed to properly keep up with Ming and so has been demoted. The magical abacus has now been relegated to a position in trade and commerce and offers to act as a merchant that Ming can call upon at his will, in the hope that this will help him regain his position in the celestial bureaucracy. After his discussion with the abacus, Ming makes his way through heaven to reach the fox spirit. The fox spirit tells him of the mother and how she trapped the mother, but is not strong enough to destroy her. The spirit implores Ming to finish what the fox spirit started by killing the mother, and Ming must then make his choice. If Ming chooses to follow the closed fist path and kill the fox spirit, she'll teleport to the lower section of her heaven, and Ming must fight her elephant demon protector, and then fight his way through the other fox spirits to reach her. Before the fox spirit dies, she implores Ming to finish what he started and kill the mother as well. If, on the other hand, Ming chooses to spare the fox spirit, he leaves the heaven and returns to the inn where he's confronted by the innkeeper who can smell the fox spirit upon him. Ming must fight the innkeeper and the other cannibals before he is able to access the cave system below and seek out the mother. Ming attacks the pillars holding the roof of the cavern up, causing their cave to collapse on top of the toad demon. After making his decision about which being or beings to kill, Ming returns to Lord Yun. If the fox spirit lived and the mother died, then the fox spirit will have told Lord Yun about what happened. If the fox spirit is dead, then Lord Yun is able to sense this and assumes that her death was necessary and that the forest will heal. Either way, he gives Ming the wind map and Ming returns to Tian's Landing. Still needing to obtain a flyer, Ming decides to make his way to the pirates' hideout, after hearing from multiple people, including Minister Sheng, that the pirates have flyers. Ming finds Boatswain Ru in the tea house of Tian's Landing and convinces Ru to take him up the river to the pirates' hideout. There is another person who has also chosen this day to infiltrate the pirates' hideout, this being the rogue Sky, who is searching for Gao the Greater. Sky wishes to take revenge on Gao, whose men had taken his daughter Pin Mei and then killed her when she proved too willful to become a slave. Making his way through the pirates' hideout, Ming peers through a window into the workshop of the mad inventor Kang. He overhears Lotus Assassin Inquisitor Lim and Gao the Greater reporting into Grand Inquisitor Jia, also of the Lotus Assassins. Inquisitor Lim chooses now to tell Gao the Greater of his son Gao the Lesser's death at Ming's hand, and this causes Gao the Greater to leave, saying he needs to mourn his son. After Gao the Greater and Inquisitor Lim leave, Ming enters the workshop, where he is set upon by more pirates. The inventor Kang intercedes and throws an explosive at the pirates to give Ming an edge in this battle. Once the pirates are defeated, Ming speaks to Kang, who tells him of the flyer he has created, the marvelous dragonfly, and also tells Ming that he is willing to assist Ming in his mission. Ming then pursues Gao the Greater up to his retreat. If this was the last of the 3 areas explored by Ming, and he has already obtained the wind map and spoken to Chai Ka, then Inquisitor Lim will also be in the retreat, and he and Gao will be arguing when Ming comes in. Gao is enraged that Ming has killed his son and will attack him, as will Lim if he is present. If this was not the last area that Ming has done, Inquisitor Lim will instead intercept Ming after the last area he completes. Ming will be able to take back the piece of the amulet Lim took from Chai Ka after Lim is dead. Once Gao and Lim, if he was present, have been disposed of, Ming makes his way back down to the flyer launch room, where Kang and Sky are waiting with Kang's prized flyer, the marvelous dragonfly. Sky has stolen the dust inductor needed for the marvelous dragonfly, and Ming will also need to provide the inscrutable power source he obtained from Chai Ka at the dam site. They are then able to fly the marvelous dragonfly back to the camp at Tian's Landing, and once Ming has obtained the amulet piece, the wind map, and the dragonfly, he and his companions are able to fly to the Imperial City. Upon arriving in the Imperial City, Ming is questioned by the Imperial Guard, who have been tasked by the Lotus Assassins to find someone who has been causing trouble in the south. Fortunately, the description they have is vague, and they cannot be sure Ming is the person they are looking for. While the guards are considering what to do, Princess Sun Lian arrives. Ming recognizes the princess as Silk Fox, and she intervenes, sending the guards away and telling Ming to meet her in a secluded part of the city by the Scholar's Garden. Meeting Silk Fox, she tells Ming that he will need to infiltrate the Lotus Assassin's base to learn what they and Death's Hand are planning. Fortunately, the Lotus Assassins are currently recruiting for Inquisitors and Executioners. Ming will have the choice of trying to impress and be recruited by either the Inquisitors or the Executioners, or both. The Inquisitors are the Lotus Assassins' intelligence branch, and should Ming wish to pursue them, Silk Fox will direct him to speak with one of the scholars who has a connection with the recruiter. The recruiter will then meet Ming back at his flyer. In order to impress the Inquisitors, Ming would have to prevent Minister Sheng, who he met in Tian's Landing, from providing a report on the Lotus Assassin activities in that area. He is intending to give this report to the head of the Ministry of Harmony, Judge Fang. Ming then has two choices. He can blackmail Judge Fang into resigning his post by having his concubine steal his signet ring, as losing this ring would see him disgraced and dismissed from office anyway. Or Ming can disgrace Minister Sheng by replacing the gift he tends to give Judge Fang with turtle eggs, which will be seen as an insult. Judge Fang is by all accounts a terrible person, and removing him from office is the open palm solution, while disgracing the hapless Minister Sheng would be the closed fist approach. On the other hand, if Ming prefers, he can choose instead to impress the executioner recruiter by taking a much more direct route of proving himself in the Imperial arena. The executioner recruiter will provide his seal of recommendation upon Ming making his way up through the ranks of the Imperial arena and defeating the champion of the Silver Division. After receiving the seal from his preferred recruiter, Ming makes his way to the Necropolis to seek out the Lotus Assassin Fortress. He sees Sagacious Zhu sneaking into the fortress just before Ming gets there. Once inside the fortress, Ming is directed to report to Master Gang to begin training as a Lotus Acolyte. On the way to report to Master Gang, Ming is challenged by other Lotus Acolytes, who are concerned that the addition of another recruit will draw attention away from them. Ming is forced to kill one of the Acolytes and the rest then leave. Having dealt with this interruption, Ming makes his way to Master Gang on the lower level of the fortress. However, before he can speak with the Master, he witnesses a man being chased and killed by a ghost. Master Gang immediately orders Ming to take care of the ghosts and is surprised and impressed when he is able to dispatch them. Master Gang has two further tasks for Ming. The first is a normal task for a Lotus Acolyte. He is to use the Soul Extractor to obtain a shard to control a Jade Golem. The second task is to arrange an accident for Master Gang's superior, Master Xin. When Ming makes his way to the Soul Extractor, he is intercepted by Sagacious Zhu. Zhu tells him that using the soul from the oldest tombs will corrupt the spirit shard, causing the assassins to lose control of their golems. Zhu is familiar with this process as he used to be one of the Lotus Assassins himself. Ming makes his way down to the oldest tombs where he is confronted by the spirit Zheng Sai, a warlord who was killed by spirit monks after he and his clan attacked the Empire. Zheng Sai recognizes Ming as a spirit monk and attacks him. This was part of Sagacious Zhu's plan, to discover if Ming really was a spirit monk by testing whether Zheng Sai would recognize him as one. After defeating Zheng Sai, Ming takes his body to the Soul Extractor and uses him to create a spirit shard. Much to the ire of the Lotus Assassin in charge of the Soul Extractor, who realizes that this has corrupted their machine. Causing Master Xin's death is the much more involved with the two tasks given by Master Gang. For Master Gang's advancement, it is vital that Master Xin's death is seen as an accident. Ideally an accident that would be quite disgraceful for Master Xin. It turns out that a past Lotus Assassin met his fate by accidentally standing in the golem press while it was being used. This both caused him to die and caused an irreparable loss to his reputation. So it is decided that Ming should arrange the same fate for Master Xin. Master Xin is too smart to step into the golem press and allow himself to be squashed, so he will need to be killed and his body then relocated to the press. In order to avoid witnesses to Master Xin's demise, Ming has to convince those in the main hall to relocate. Ming also has to convince the golem press operator to leave his position, and fortunately, this operator has no issue with Ming killing Master Xin. In fact, he suggests that while he is at it, Ming might as well also kill Master Gang, so that there is more room for the rest of them to advance. Sagacious Zhu also made another appearance to suggest the same thing. To draw out Master Xin, it is also necessary to then prevent his expected shipment of slaves arriving. And so Ming leaves the fortress and meets up with the slaver in the Necropolis. Ming can kill or free the slaves, and then returns to the fortress. Upon Ming completing the setup, Master Xin enters the main hall, questioning where the slaves are. Ming then kills him and takes his body to the golem press. Master Gang enters the golem press room to verify that Master Xin has indeed been killed. And if Ming so chooses, he can drop a clay golem on Master Gang, killing him as well. After leaving the golem press room, Ming is told to bring the spirit shard he created to be placed in the Jade Golem. Placing the spirit shard of Zheng Sai in the Jade Golem corrupts it, and causes the clay golems connected to it to also start behaving erratically. This disturbance draws out Grand Inquisitor Jia, who recognizes Ming by the amulet in his possession. Jia explains Death's Hand's role in the running of the Empire, following the Emperor's directions while drawing criticism away from the Emperor as he solidified his power. Jia wants to give Ming to Death's Hand as a gift, and they fight. After killing Jia, Ming recovers the last piece of his amulet, but is set upon by Death's Hand. Sagacious Su appears one more time and brings down a pillar on top of Death's Hand, sacrificing himself to allow Ming to escape. Returning to the flyer, Ming shares what he has learned about Death's Hand and the Emperor. The group resolves to go directly to the palace to confront the Emperor himself. Arriving at the palace, the group is stopped by a servant who, despite Silk Fox being the daughter of the Emperor, tells her that Death's Hand has sealed the area and none may enter. Silk Fox knocks the servant out, and Ming heads into the palace towards the throne room. He passes a large set of doors, which Silk Fox says belong to the tombs of past leaders, and that it has now been sealed for 20 years. Supposedly the last tombs were those of Princes Sun Qin and Sun Li. Continuing to the throne room, the group is greeted by the sight of Emperor Sun Hai and Master Li arguing. Upon their entrance, Emperor Sun Hai questions why his daughter is there, and she confronts him about allowing Death's Hand to corrupt the Empire. Sun Hai releases a burst of power which renders everyone in the room apart from Ming unconscious, and summons Lotus Assassins to attack Ming. After Ming defeats the Lotus Assassins and manages to kill Emperor Sun Hai, Master Li steps out and picks up the Jade Heart of the Water Dragon. Master Li approaches Ming and distracts him by throwing the Jade Heart in the air. Master Li then exploits the flaws that he, as Ming's teacher, built into his posture and combat style, and Ming is killed. It turns out that Master Li had always intended for Ming's life to end this way. After he was not able to defeat his brother during the Battle of Dirge and take his power as Emperor, he instead took the infant Ming, intending always to use him as the only other one, other than the Emperor, who had access to the Water Dragon's power, through his heritage as a spirit monk. He always intended for Ming to make it to the palace and to confront and defeat the Emperor, and always planned to then kill Ming in order to take the power for himself. But death is not the end, particularly in the Jade Empire where the dead cannot rest. And so Ming awakes as a spirit and is directed to walk towards the light by the Water Dragon, who explains that this is not the end for Ming, and there is a way for him to come back. The Water Dragon transports Ming's spirit to the spirit monk home of Dirge and tells him to seek out Abbot Song and to restore the sacred fountains of Dirge that were tainted during the Emperor's assault, those 20 years ago. Restoring the fountains will restore enough of the Water Dragon's power for her to resurrect Ming. Ming finds Abbot Song, who senses Ming's connection with the Water Dragon and recognizes him as a spirit monk child stolen during the Emperor's attack. Abbot Song tells Ming the full story of the attack on Dirge and of Master Li ripping Ming from the arms of his guardian. He also tells Ming of the death of Prince Sun Qin and the Emperor's decision to use the stolen power of the Water Dragon to resurrect Prince Sun Qin and bind him to the will of the Emperor, declaring both of his brothers died at Dirge in support of his cause. During the assault on Dirge, the sacred fountains were tainted with human blood. Abbot Song hopes that restoration of the sacred fountains will break the curse that has settled over Dirge, an endless battle between the spirit monks and imperial soldiers who died that night. Ming goes with Abbot Song and restores the first fountain after defeating its guardian, Zhan Wu. She had been a spirit monk who had betrayed her people during the attack for the promise of wealth and power. Unfortunately for her, the Emperor had no intention of fulfilling this promise, and after he succeeded in taking the Water Dragon, the Emperor executed her and the other treacherous spirit monks, and bound their spirits to the fountains. Abbot Song explains that spirits can be bound to locations and objects, and Ming realizes that Death's Hand is bound to the armor he wears. As a spirit monk, Ming has the power to bind spirits as well, though Abbot Song advises that it is a terrible thing to do, and must never be done, particularly not to the living. Approaching the second fountain, Ming and Abbot Song are confronted by a demon, the Minion of Suffering, who claims his master ordered him to devour the fountain's guardian and take its seal. Ming and Abbot Song pursue the demon, who tells them that his master has no name but is evil incarnate. Defeating the demon and reclaiming the seal, Ming and Abbot Song are directly addressed by this master, who says he will await Ming in the temple. Using the seal to restore the fountain unseals the temple door. Before they can enter, the Water Dragon appears again and tells Abbot Song that it is now time to end the endless battle of Dirge. She urges Abbot Song to lead his people in breaking their curse, and Ming is then left to enter the temple alone. Within the temple, Ming is set upon by the demon's master, who appears to Ming as copies of himself, representing aspects of sorrow, rage, and despair. Once the aspects are defeated, the taint infesting dirge is cleansed, and the water dragon's spirit is able to return to her temple. While still weak, she has sufficient power now to resurrect Ming, and to psychically call to Dawn Star, telling her to come to Dirge with Ming's other companions. Resurrected, Ming must defeat the demons that followed him back to the world of the living, and destroy the disturbance that allowed them to come through. Leaving the temple, Ming finds his companions have already arrived in Dirge and await him. Unfortunately, Master Li, now Emperor Sun Li, also sensed Ming's resurrection, and Death's Hand is on his way to Dirge and will arrive the next day. The companions rest overnight and awaken the following morning to make preparations before Death's Hand and his Lotus Assassins arrive. The marvelous dragonfly provides an opportunity to take out some of the Lotus Assassin forces before they reach the temple, while Kang is able to plant explosives on the bridge leading up to the temple to hinder the Lotus Assassins in their approach. With the bridge collapsed, Black Whirlwind is able to defeat the Lotus Assassins that have so far made it to the courtyard. As Ming meets up with the Black Whirlwind, they hear Sky sounding the temple bell. Ming returns to the temple to investigate why the bell is being rung. Entering the temple, Ming is approached by Sky, who explains that he had been approached by the Lotus Assassins, who attempted to convince him to betray Ming. Sky instead used this opportunity to lead Death's Hand into a trap, and when Death's Hand and the Lotus Assassins enter the temple, expecting to find Ming isolated and vulnerable, Sky instead sets off explosives which cause part of the ceiling to collapse, killing all of the Lotus Assassins who accompany Death's Hand. Death's Hand survives and Ming is able to defeat him, but once Death's Hand falls, Master Li projects himself into the temple behind Ming, chastising him for believing Death's Hand could be defeated so easily, when the very power of the water dragon keeps him bound to the armor and prevents his permanent death. Ming believes that he can break the connection between Death's Hand and Master Li by binding Death's Hand to himself instead, as a spirit monk. Ming and Master Li both attempt to control Death's Hand, causing him to divide into two aspects, that of Prince Sun Qin as he was, and one that is solely Death's Hand. Prince Sun Qin is victorious, and Death's Hand is bound to Ming. Master Li is angered by this and tells Ming that he will await him at the palace. Death's Hand begs Ming to release him and allow his spirit to rest. An open-palmed Ming would release his spirit and return to his companions alone. A closed-fist Ming, however, would keep Death's Hand bound to him as another companion, as a closed-fist Ming would not lose the opportunity to have so valuable a tool. If Death's Hand remains bound, a number of Ming's other companions will object, and Ming will have to choose between releasing Death's Hand or binding these companions as well. After the choices are made, Ming returns to the palace to confront Master Li. Ming follows the same path as the last time he visited the palace, but this time he is met by the water dragon, who tells him the reason the inner part of the palace appears as it does was because it was gutted to allow a flow of water. The water dragon directs Ming into the tombs, and when he enters he sees the water dragon's body, split open with water spilling from the wounds that can never heal. The water dragon explains that this is how the drought was ended, but at a cost not only to the water dragon and the souls of the dead, but also to another land which lies in drought in the Jade Empire's place, to balance the water being drawn through the water dragon. The water dragon's spirit urges Ming to destroy the machines that keep her body from dying, and keeps drawing the water from her wounds. Ming realizes from his experiences with the tainted fountains in Dirge that human blood would be able to taint the water here, and in so doing taint the source of Master Li's power, without destroying the power of the water dragon entirely. This option would keep the water dragon's power available to be drawn upon by Ming as a spirit monk once Master Li was defeated. An open palm Ming will destroy the machine, allowing the water dragon to die. A closed fist Ming will choose to taint the water dragon by sacrificing one of his companions, in order to preserve the power of the water dragon for himself in the future. A number of the companions will object to this course of action, and Ming will be forced to kill them. Even if Ming had bound them to his will previously, they will still fight against him, having been imbued with the power of the water dragon's magic and so released from their bindings. Having decided the fate of the water dragon, Ming moves on into the throne room to meet his master one last time. Master Li initially tries creating stone constructs in the shape of demons to fight Ming, but once these are defeated, he imprisons Ming in his own mind to face his own doubt instead. Ming is able to fight off these representations of doubt with the assistance of his companions, and he is assisted one last time by the spirit of Sagacious Zhu, who breaks Master Li's spell. Back in the real world, Ming then confronts Master Li, who tries to convince Ming that the Empire is better off with him in charge, that he will bring peace and uniformity to the Empire, and everyone will be content within their roles, and with the eternal stability of the Empire. At this point, Ming can choose to sacrifice himself and to allow Master Li's vision for the future to come true, or he can fight Master Li to the death. And this brings us to the endings. There are 3 potential endings to Jade Empire: the open palm, the closed fist, and the third ending, which would have become the canon ending with the planned sequel. In the open palm ending, the water dragon is allowed to die and return to the Wheel of Rebirth. Ming returns to the Imperial City with his companions and is greeted by the people of the Empire. This is the good ending, and the restless dead can sleep or go through the process of rebirth and reincarnation. However, it also means that the water that had been sustaining the Empire is gone. The drought, which had killed hundreds of thousands of people before, will likely return, and this might ultimately mean the death of the Empire itself, along with countless more innocent people who had never known what the Emperor had done to end the drought the last time. With the closed palm ending, the water dragon is tainted, and Ming is able to claim position of Emperor. He returns to the Imperial City, and he is greeted not by the people of the Empire, but by the Lotus Assassins, who recognize him and his authority. The water of the water dragon is tainted, but the water still flows freely, and over time the taint will fade, and it can only be assumed that any drought that was to come would end with the taint. So while this is the evil ending, it may also be the utilitarian one. The third canon ending may also be utilitarian, depending on how well Master Li can be trusted. This third ending occurs if Ming chooses to allow Master Li to kill him in their final confrontation. This decision allows Master Li to remain the Emperor and ostensibly make good on his promise of stability. We see a teacher with a group of students in front of a giant statue of Ming, with the teacher telling their students Ming was a hero who sacrificed himself for the Empire. However, when one of the students starts asking questions about what life was like before, one of the golems guarding the statue shifts in a threatening manner. The teacher uses this as a teaching moment. The lesson is to be content in your station, and there are things you don't need to know. The student repeats, "We don't need to know," and the golem relaxes. Master Li was observing this lesson, and the cutscene ends with Master Li laughing to himself as he walks away. While it appears in this ending there is stability in the Empire, it also appears that the people are corrupted by the same forces the Lotus Assassins were affected by, and the impact of this in the long term is not known. At least, not in this game. This ending is the canon ending. Bioware had initially intended for there to be a sequel to Jade Empire. This sequel, referred to alternatively as Jade Empire 2 or Jade Modern, would follow this ending and be set in the far future, in modern times where magic had been suppressed. The player would be a member of the Crisis Response Unit, a unit responsible for responding to strange incidences that were occurring due to magic slowly returning. While it is unlikely the sequel will ever come to be, it is interesting to know the canon ending of the original game, as bleak as it may be. But on that note, we will leave it there. Let me know what you thought of the ending to Jade Empire. Do you see any of the 3 endings as being good, or are they all equally bad? What ending did you choose, and what impact do you think it would have on the future of the Jade Empire?